You have been vibe coding for a while now. You know what works and you know what doesn't. You have hit the wall where the AI writes perfect front-end code and then completely falls apart the moment you need a real backend. You have copy-pasted Firebase config files at midnight trying to wire up authentication that should have taken 5 minutes. You have got a Replit prototype that looks great and a cursor session that works great. And neither one does both things at the same time. Google just fixed that, all of it, in one update. And I don't mean fixed in the here's a better autocomplete sense. I mean full Firebase backend, auto-provisioned, authentication, set up automatically, real-time multiplayer, secure API key management, Next.js support, session persistence, a coding agent running in an actual Linux container on Cloud Run, all from a single prompt line, all inside your browser. We have been testing this since the update dropped, and in this video I want to be straight with you about what's genuinely different in the updated Google AI Studio. The strength of current vibe coding tools is the front end. That's been fixed for a while. Cursor, Replit, Bolt, they all nail the UI. You describe something, you get a clean React component. The problem starts when your app actually needs to do something. Real authentication, real data, or multiple users in the same session. That's where everything falls apart. You start context switching. Firebase console, back to your editor, docs, and you are debugging a Firestore rule at 11 p.m. The vibe dies. And that's the gap Google just closed. What they've built isn't a better code generator. It's a complete environment where the gap between prompt and working full-stack app is now effectively zero. And the reason they could do this when nobody else could is infrastructure. Google owns Firebase. Google owns Cloud Run. They're not integrating with a third-party backend. They are the backend. That's actually an unfair advantage, and this update is the first time they've actually used it properly. So what are the actual updates we are talking about? First one is the Firebase auto-provisioning. The agent now detects when your app needs a database or authentication and provisions it for you automatically. Full Firestore setup, Google sign-in, security rules, the app config JSON, all generated without you touching the Firebase console once. Then there is the real-time multiplayer. Server-side runtime now manages all state and connections. You can test it by opening multiple tabs or sharing the URL. No WebSockets to configure, no server to babysit. It just works. There are some demo examples they showed like the laser tag game and the collaborative workspace. The next one is the Secrets Manager. Secure server-side storage for API keys. The agent detects when a key is needed and prompts you to add it. Keys are never exposed client-side. There's an Integrations tab with OAuth callback URLs for third-party services. This is what unlocks real external APIs, maps, Stripe, anything, without you touching environment variables manually. Also, now they have the full NPM ecosystem behind them. The agent can now install any NPM package on its own. Ask for smooth animations. It installs Framer Motion. Ask for icons. It pulls the right library. And this is powered by a real server-side Node.js runtime. So AI Studio apps are no longer just client-side prototypes. They have an actual backend. They also now support Next.js. Yes, that's right. React, Angular, and now Next.js. You pick the framework in settings. This is the signal that Google is serious about production-grade outputs, not just demos. Because most real apps run on Next.js. They know that. The next noticeable one is session persistence. Close the browser, come back on a different device. Your project is exactly where you left it. Sounds basic, but this was a real blocker before. You can now use AI Studio as your actual working environment, not just a place to generate a starting point. And finally, the core of it all. The anti-gravity agent. This is the engine under everything. It runs in a Linux container on Cloud Run. It uses real tools, view file, edit file, lint, compile. It's not outputting code for you to paste somewhere. It's building your app in a live environment with full context of your entire project structure and chat history. Multi-step tasks, cross-file edits, it sees the whole picture. And one more thing worth mentioning is Firebase Studio is shutting down. Everything moves to AI Studio. The deadline is March 22nd, 2027. So if you have anything in Firebase Studio, now's the time to migrate. Okay, here's our actual take after comparing Google AI Studio with other tools using real test cases. So where does Cursor stand now? Cursor is still the best tool for working inside an existing codebase. If you've got a production repo, real tests, a CI pipeline, Cursor's repo-level context and inline editing is genuinely better than anything AI Studio does. I'm not dropping Cursor. But Cursor still can't provision your backend. It can't auto-set up Firebase. It doesn't manage your deployment. You write your code in Cursor and then you have to take it somewhere. AI Studio builds the whole thing in one place and ships it. So, the honest answer, these two tools are starting to serve different phases of the same workflow. AI Studio for the build phase, from idea to working full-stack app. Cursor for the refine phase, once you've exported and need to go deeper. So what about Replit? Replit has been the best browser-based full-stack environment for years. But Replit doesn't have Firebase. Replit doesn't have Cloud Run. Replit's AI agent doesn't have the infrastructure underneath it that the anti-gravity agent does. The gap between Replit and AI Studio just got significantly wider with this update. That's not a knock on Replit. It's just the reality of Google's home field advantage when it comes to back-end infrastructure. Now let's look at V0 by Vercel. V0 is excellent at UI generation, probably still the best for pure front-end component work if you're building on top of Next.js and deploying on Vercel. But it's a UI tool. It doesn't build your backend. AI Studio now does both. And finally, let's compare this to ChatGPT and Claude. Those are conversation tools with code capabilities. They'll write you great code, but they hand it to you. And then you're on your own to run it, deploy it, debug the environment issues. AI Studio doesn't hand you code. It builds the running app. That's a categorically different thing. I am not gonna lie, AI Studio still struggles with complex production-grade systems, custom auth, multi-region setups, deep back-end logic, anything beyond what Firebase and Cloud Run offer out of the box. If you're building a serious startup backend with strict requirements, you'll outgrow it. It's not replacing a senior engineer. But for 80% of apps most vibe coders build, it now handles the full stack. And that number just jumped. So, is coding dead? Wrong question. What does it take to ship a real full-stack app with auth, database, real-time features, and users? Few months ago, you needed to code or hire someone. Front-end, back-end, auth, deployment. Today, you need a clear idea and the ability to describe it. That's the barrier to building software collapsing in real time. And Cursor, Replit, V0, they just got a serious competitor with Google's infrastructure built in. For builders, this removes the biggest friction. Backend, auth, deployment, largely solved. Now it's not whether to use AI Studio, it's how. Build in AI Studio, refine in Cursor, UI in V0. That combo is probably the most powerful vibe coding stack right now, and AI Studio just became the most important part of it. Go try it, and drop a comment with what you're building. If this was useful, like this video and subscribe to the channel. I will see you in the next one.